Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back in War Thunder and it's time to have a look at the preliminary patch notes for updates 1.89, which is going to be titled Imperial Navy, obviously because the Japanese Navy is coming to the game, the IJN. Now, understand that these preliminary patch notes are pretty much just for the first dev server, so they could easily change, and will change, by the time either a second dev server comes out, or by the time the actual live comes out. So this won't be all of the changes, but it will be some of them that are interesting, or it will be the majority of them, and then there'll probably be some extra vehicles on top, plus maybe another different mechanic or something like that. But I'll make sure to keep you updated if these change. Just understand that these are the only ones that we have at this moment. So there'll be a link in the description so you can see them yourself, and also understand that there are some known bugs on the dev server. I mentioned this while talking about the Leclerc and also other vehicles, that some new vehicles from update 1.89 might have some inaccuracies in their characteristics, armor, and weaponry settings. So that's pretty much just a cover-all term to make sure if there is anything dodgy, they can change it and let you know later on. There is also the latest armor models for the new ground vehicles is in the process of being set up and refined. I mentioned this in the Leclerc video. There is no way that the turret is that weak on the Leclerc, and it's very odd if the Ariete has exactly the same armor as the prototype, but we'll have to see either on the next dev server or the one after. And in aircraft missions, it is possible that aircraft will jump up and down on the airfield. I actually had an interesting issue where you had physical models of aircraft on the ground. Now, normally what happens is if you are on the ground, you go through, or you are technically, you cannot touch physically other models that are there when it comes to other aircraft, but it seemed like the aircraft were physical entities and you could crash into them even while touching the ground and taking off. And also there is definitely an ongoing bug which makes your vehicle jump up and down on the airfield, which is a bit of an odd one. The other stuff is just a little bit about the dev server themselves and also how to use it. And we have a bunch of new vehicles. I've pretty much gone over the majority of these. There was only a few that I actually missed out when it came to them, and I'll comment on some of them now. So the F-86K, it was at 9.0 on the dev server. I feel like it's going to go up to 9.3. It has all of the advantages of the 9.0 Sabres, but also the Sidewinders. So I would stick it at 9.3 just to keep it the same as all the other Sidewinder Sabres. Otherwise, it could definitely be seen as better than the rest. It has, as I said, the advantages of many of the other ones, such as its roll rate and its maneuverability and its acceleration, and the guns themselves, even though they're different, they're very similar in the amount of power that they can put out. The Groza, which is kind of like a mini destroyer for the Soviets, I covered it in the new Naval video. It, to me, seems, well, interesting, I suppose. It's not that much of a big deal when it comes to it, but it is definitely another ship to research. The biggest problem for me for the Groza is that they've put it before the PR-159. Now, if you don't know what the PR-159 is, it's a machine that is got very, very fast-firing 76mm guns on it, which are designed to annihilate destroyers or anything that is close. So you have to make sure when facing the PR-159 that, you know, you get guns on first and knock out its turrets before it starts hitting you. It can dish out a lot of damage, but it doesn't have a lot of survivability. And this Groza just seems like just a roadblock in the way for the PR-159, because it definitely is nowhere near as good as it. The other ones to also talk about, the PT boats for Japan looked very fun. I was kind of worried about the 25mm, because when you can't change the ammunition on the 25mm, you're stuck with a tracer round, and that's about it. So basically an AP round or something similar to it, which I don't think will go too well. The T-51B looked very fun. Like, the later tier PT boats look great for the Japanese, and there was a distinct gap between the smaller boats and the destroyers for the Japanese, which means that the smaller boats and the smaller ships should be able to deal with other smaller ships instead of getting dragged up into higher battles. So I like that. Overall, the Japanese tree is looking very fun. There are definitely a few which don't look so fun, such as the Abte Pioneer and the Serial, which look like they're straight up picked out of the Victorian era when it comes to ship design. And also the A2D1, which it was on the dev server, that is just a monster of a machine. And obviously the Leclerc S1, lovely to see, and the Ariete as well. And the fact that we get a bunch of parity when it comes to the top tiers of the game. Alongside the Tunguska now, you have the ADATs, you have the Stormer, you have the Roland 1. There is a German Roland launcher, but understand it wasn't technically on the dev server, it was only in the files. And so therefore the majority of nations are getting some form of anti-air missile on the ground. So that's lovely. Now, next one, the naval missions for the locations Green Mountains Gulf, Black Sea Port, and Fugo Islands. I didn't check them out myself, just because I didn't really have time, did I? Unfortunately, I was commanding the World War Mode stuff, or sub-commanding, I should say. And then I had to go straight into the dev server. It was a very hectic Sunday, which is why this video is a little bit late. They've also added hull brake to the following vehicles: the Orbital 74, R3T106, the Type 60, the Falcon, the Striker, Swingfire, Warrior, M3 Bradley, M50 Ontos, the Sheridan, BMP-1 SU-100P, and the ZSU-57-2. I have a feeling that these, or at least some of them, had hull brake already, or they... This is the thing, right? So about a month or month and a half ago, they changed how the hull brake mechanics worked, and for specific vehicles, you had to do a certain amount of damage instead of what it was before, which was this idea of, well, if you just hit a key component and annihilated it, then the whole machine would be annihilated. I'm wondering if they're taking these vehicles back to that point instead of where it is now. Because in the Warrior, I'd still get one shot. I still, at this moment in update 1.87, I feel like I'm getting hull broken. Or maybe it's just the fact that the machine is incredibly, it's incredibly weak anyway when it comes to its armor. But the Warrior gets an add-on package, and the Bradley is quite chunky. So it's kind of surprising seeing these on the list, but the other ones, not so much. The Sheridan, it is definitely a little bit of a surprise, but, there's no real big qualms here when it comes to these vehicles. The T-80B and the T-72A tank turrets have been made using the volumetric armor technology, so this is the one which is on the T-80U right now. It's, in my opinion, a really cool system. It pretty much means instead of having to work off kind of estimates on armor, you can see the exact amount, meaning that everything is a lot more precise for the individual to work out where to pen stuff. So for me, I hope this technology, as they call it, gets expanded to other nations. I'm sure it will over time. The armor of the Leopard 2A5 turret has been fixed. The size of the cavities for the filler itself and armor plates have been made in more detail. The existing micro gaps in the turret armor have been fixed. Those all seem like buffs to the turret of the 2A5. These don't seem like nerfs. I saw on the dev server that it had around about 1,000 millimeters of effective kinetic on the turret. So that'll be fun again. I mean, it was still already good. This just seems like they're patching the little holes that you could kind of fit through. You know how every top tier vehicle has like a little pixel or something that you can actually pen with a machine gun? I feel like they're slowly but surely getting rid of all of them, which is obviously good from a bug fixing point of view, because I don't think any vehicle should have just a hole where you can machine gun pen it. Now we have a bunch of aircraft model, damage model, and characteristic weapon changes. So the tandem heat warhead for the 9M120 Attacker ATGMs has been added. So alongside the Sturm, which I believe fires this ATGM, and also many others fire this ATGM, they've created a tandem heat warhead. So it has you can work out what it is. Do you know what a tandem bicycle is? A tandem bicycle is basically a two-seater bicycle. So what this means is you have power going from both individuals. Here, I'll show you what I mean, just so to get an idea. And for me, oops, there we go. Come on. A tandem bike is like this, right? So it has two pedals on it, and both individuals pedal in unison to be able to propel the bike forward. The tandem heat warhead is kind of the same. You have an initial explosion which sets off the heat through a system, and then you have a secondary explosion which propels it forward more in a shotgun sense. So technically, for these attacker ATGMs, they should be doing a hell of a lot more damage than they were before, just because they have more spread. And on the dev server, the attacker ATGMs were doing great. You know, when testing them with the Sturm, they were great. Unfortunately, with the Sturm, it's still the Sturm. So it has a lot of other issues with it, if you want to see the video that I did on it. The AGM-114B Hellfire, maximum flight speed of the missile, has been clarified. I also saw there was something interesting with the Hellfire where you could kind of fire and forget it if you use the laser rangefinder on machines. I'm wondering if they're going to add that functionality, and if they do, that's pretty cool. But overall, it's not really a crazy difference. I've heard from a lot of people it's better to use the ATGMs than the Hellfires instead, so we'll see if that changes with time. The maximum control range for the following missiles has been fixed: the 9M114, 9M17M, the 9M17P, and the 9M120, so a bunch of Soviet ones, then the TOW-2. So we'll see how that is. One of the biggest issues with their helicopters right now, or at least used to be, this would have been a simple fix for them back in the day when they were taking over games, would be to give the missiles their maximum range. So the helicopters would have to come a lot closer to be able to use the ATGMs than anything else. The Type 92 and Type 89 machine guns, the ammunition designation for the IAI, has been fixed. Well, that's good. The HE-45, the explosive mass of the HEFI-T, has been fixed, and the Hispano 404, the composition of different armor-piercing shells in comparison to similar composed belts, has been fixed. Hopefully, that means that, well, the Hispano 404 generally is okay. The early Hispanos from the British, like the Mark 1s and the Mark 2s, is where the Hispano kind of struggles. The 404 is good, and the Mark 5s are good. The Mark 1s and 2s struggle from default syndrome and also lack of penetration on a lot of their shells. The 200 kilo one bomb, the mass and type of explosive substance has been changed. The GAMNN, the 50 kilo bomb, has been changed as well. The 500 kilo number 2 bomb has been changed. The FAB 5000 type of explosive substance has been fixed. Interesting. The 750-pound M117 bomb, the type of explosive substance, has been fixed. I'm wondering how much of an effect these are going to have on the bombs themselves. I suppose it'll depend on the explosive mass that they have. The AH-1F and AH-1Z, the information displayed for the new 20mm cannons modification was previously showed a negative bonus to the failure rate, has been fixed. Oh, that's good. Can you imagine you get a modification and it makes your machine worse? I mean, technically you can get them, right? Like external gun pods, especially if you don't need them, but you know, it is how it is. The AH-1G, the ammunition for the gun pod weapon modification, has been fixed. Well, that's good. The AH series, the UH series, and the X, basically all the AHs and the UHs. The name of the gun pod XM18 modification has been changed to the M18A1. Okay, the AH-1Z, the information displayed for the Sidewinders missile modification together with the flare modification has been fixed. The Mi-24PV, or all versions, the possibility of using some weaponry presets together with R-60M missiles without researching and unlocking the required modifications for its usage has been fixed. So you could kind of cheat the system there, and they've got rid of it. The Mi-35M, the IRCM modification displaying whilst it was not researched and unlocked has been fixed. The Mi-4AV, the amount of crew members stated on the vehicle card, has been fixed. That is an that is an odd mistake. The SA-313B, the delayed start of firing for the offensive weaponry has been fixed. The Mi-24V, the display of the Yak-B machine guns and the interface being changed from cannon to machine gun. Well, lovely. A lot of basic bug fixes there for many of these helicopters. The P-51H-5NA, information about the fuel tank's protection has been added. Well, that's good. So at least we know how much damage they can take. Generally, if you get hit in a plane at 6.3, which the P-51H finds itself, you're generally not surviving anyway. But it'll give you a little bit more if you win a fight and you're crippled and you want to go back to base. The BE-6, the angles for the defensive turret has been fixed. I wonder if they've reduced it, because it was kind of insane how far the B6's guns could cover. The mass name and modification of the suspension weaponry system R164 for the BF-109 has been fixed. Well, that's good. The A8 Focke-Wulf, the information displayed regarding the thickness of the bulletproof glass in the cockpit has been fixed. The NC900, the armor of the radiators protection has been fixed. The FJ4B, the round composition of the belts for the Mark 12 Mod 3 cannons have been fixed. And the AD4, the possibility to fly out without any suspended weaponry has been added. So you can actually go in the AD4 without a load. Now, if you've ever flown the AD4, you'll know that it is a quite competent fighter. It actually is one of those planes in the game which fills the attacker role really well, but it also fills the fighter role pretty good without weaponry. So now you don't have to take secondary weaponry. I believe the AD4 will be used as not just an attacker to grind it out and grind out the American tree, but also as a dogfighter, because it is good at it. The Key 109, the possibility to participate in Assault Arcade has been added. Well, great, wonderful. That might be the only way of grinding out that machine without tearing your head off. The Key 200, installed cannons Type 5 has been changed to the HO 1552s. Fair enough, that might be just a different designation. The P400, the amount of ammunition of the wing-mounted machine guns has been changed from 3,000 rounds in total to 4,000 rounds in total. So the P400 is getting even more ammunition. The P400 is a sleeper agent. Many people don't think about it, or many people don't know how good it is. But it does have one critical flaw, which is it doesn't have the most amazing engine. So you can get out-climbed and you can get outsped, but it is a really good jack-of-all-trades vehicle. You know, it turns really well. It's also able to dispense a lot of fire on an enemy, and now it has even more chance to do that. Very good in ground realistic battles, because obviously you don't have those prolonged, high altitude flights. The UH-1D, the display of the AGM-22 missiles, has been changed to SS-11 missiles. Well, there you go. The Key 49, all of the versions, the thickness displayed of the armor plate behind the 20mm cannons has been fixed. Well, the 20mm cannon on the Key 49 is at such an odd angle, it really doesn't do enough to really care about. The P1Y1, the thickness of the rear armor plate has been fixed. If you've never used the P1Y1, I massively would say have a go, because the P1Y1 is a really fun machine. You know, it's got a good bomb load behind it, it's really flexible, it's got some nice turrets on it, it's really easy to grind out, especially on many of the aerialistic Japanese maps, so just give it a go. The POTES 63, the separate bomb dropping for the 100 and 200s have been added, nice, so that gives it a little bit more flexibility as we go around. The IL-28, all modifications, the information, all two of them, the information about the thickness of the armored glass of the rear turret has been fixed. The POTES 633, the wings repair modification, has been moved to the level 3. Okay. It means rank through the modifications. The Sunderland, all modifications. The guidance angles of the defensive turrets has been fixed. Okay. Well, the Sunderland is another... I suppose it's not a hidden gem because it's the size of America, but the Sunderland itself is a really fun and easy machine to use, right? It doesn't have the best bomb load, but just use it as a gunship and you'll have a lot of fun at lower tiers. The PBY5, all versions, the amount of ammunition in the turrets on the sides have been changed by 78 rounds. It's getting more rounds. The PBY5, all versions. Wait a second. The defensive weaponry type of the lower turret has been changed from 7.62 to the 12.7 Browning. Okay, so it's got a little bit more meaty on it now. It won't make too much of a difference because the tail is made of paper on the PBY5, but it does mean that you have more chance of knocking those pilots out before you go down. The H8K2 and H8K3, the guidance angles of the defensive weaponry has been fixed. Hopefully that is in a positive way for those machines. The SB2, the amount of rounds in the nose turret has been upped by 10 per machine gun. The Key 67, the amount of ammo in the nose turret has been upped by 50. The upper gun turret is up by 100, and the rear turret is up to 200. So more rounds all around in the Key 67, so you should be able to fight back a little bit harder against the enemies that you're fighting. The PBM3, the Mariner, the guidance angles of the defensive weaponry has been fixed. Oh, well, that's good. Another thing about the Mariner, it turns out the one that they've put in game is not the PBM3. It's like a weird conglomeration, I believe, of like a PBM5 or two versions of the PBM3 or two versions of the PBM5. And it's very odd that they've picked this specific version. The one which had obviously the decreased bomb load, but yeah, it's just something to think about. Maybe worth having a look into the name of the PBM, just for some pretty cool historical lingo, I suppose. The SM-7942, the research relationship and position of the 12.7 caliber turret machine gun modification has been fixed. Wait, why? Right, why here do you split them up? And then here, you put all modifications. Like, whatever. The guidance angles of the defensive weaponry has been fixed on that. The FG4B, the color of the traces for the offensive weaponry has been fixed. The H16, once again, defensive guns. And then the P283, exactly the same. F100, the negative indicators of information for the offensive weaponry modifications has been fixed, and the TBF1C, the thickness and type of the armor elements of the lower turret has been fixed. Jesus Christ, that's a lot of information. I'd just like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Matity, Moxie, Nito, Nick Graham, Alobralo, Sebastian Corona, Super Cacti, and Elove Goats and Seductive Trashcan for supporting the channel.